It's incredible. You become like this champion of creativity, imagination, intuition. And it really is like at a whole different axis than a lot of our current schools are teaching at. So, what is that movement looking like? Like, what is that energy? So, you've got like Seligman and Penn. You've got like, but like, what does it look like writ large? And who are like the major figures in addition to you that are trying to push things in a more human direction?
So they have big positive education conferences, with like thousands of people from all over the world, come to these conferences. But if I can just give some shout outs, Peggy Kern over in Australia is leading the way of positive education in Australia. It's for some reason England and Australia, in addition to the U.S., are the ones that are most interested in positive education, and virtually all of Australia and England educators come to these conferences. So that's really big over there. But there's certain schools, like even in Philadelphia, Shipley School is leading the way in terms of the entire school is based on a positive education model. So there are schools that have this. So. And I could name schools in Australia that are doing this.
It's very interesting to me, Scott, that you cite international sources, because I have this sense that's been building over the last number of years that American culture and thus a lot of our schools are really, really mechanical, hyper competitive in a particular way. Like it kind of built to like kind of trying to crush like a bunch of people through a gate that can only accept like some
Oh yeah.
like very small proportion of them, and that we're all kind of trained this way, that there's like a real sort of competitive savagery to like a lot of like the American system, and that extends from our educational institutions to our economy, which now our economy is like the most savage winner take all thing that in human history at this point. And so when you talk about people who are working on positive education, like you're like, oh, the Aussies, like the UK, and I'm just like come on, America. Like America genuinely needs like a massive expansion of humanity.
I mean, that's so well put. I wanted you to be president. Again, I'm just going to repeat that again. I'm just going to repeat that again. Like that would have been such a amazing.
Oh, thank you. I
Just,
appreciate
yeah.
it.
Yeah, no, but expansion of humanity is absolutely what we need. But if I may just go even a little bit further to more concrete proposals, because I really do believe in bringing in data. I believe in evidence. I don't want to make arguments. If you try to build something on just ideology, for instance, that's like building something on a sandcastle. Like you need it to have evidence based to a certain degree, and you have to be flexible to update the evidence in light of new information. I think that these following basic human needs are things we need to learn more in an education system, and they have a really strong evidence base in positive psychology and humanistic psychology for them. So need for connection. Okay, that's a big one. In our school system right now, kids are profoundly lonely. Of course, right now being virtual, that's even worse. And then so you have need for safety, and that can include feeling as though your environment is that you have a secure attachment to your environment. Attachment theory comes into play here. It's important to have a secure attachment to not just your parents, but we don't often talk about the necessity of having a secure attachment to your teachers. Like who's talking about that? And what that just means is that you feel like, they have your back. If you fail, if you fall down, that you can trust. There's trust in your environment. We have a real trust crisis right now in America with each other. The next one in my revised hierarchy of needs is the need for self-esteem. But I specifically talk about healthy self-esteem versus narcissism. We do see a lot of narcissism around, in the current generation. When I say that, the current generation of kids get mad at me.
A lot of it's social media, man. I mean, there's like a real, I mean, you literally have numbers attached to how many people like you.
Exactly. Exactly. But that's different. So narcissism is, how do you think you're better than others? But just a healthy self-esteem is that you just think you're worthy. And I do think we have a crisis of people feeling as though they're
A lot
good
of people do not
enough.
genuinely feel like they are
Hmm.
worthy. And you
Hmm.
made the argument in a Scientific American article that this is tied to the way we're treating people through things like the economy or the lack of universal basic income. it was one of the points of my campaign was like, look, if you had universal basic income, and then you could all look at your child and say, your country loves you, your country values you, and you're going to be all right, and we're going to invest in you, like, and as someone who's run organizations, I've made this argument, is like, you can always tell if an organization's investing in you and if it's not. It takes you approximately 2 days to figure out if an organization's investing in you. And right
2
now,
seconds sometimes.
yeah, it's like by the second day, you're like, okay, I see what's going on here. And this is one reason why when organizations put on these, frankly, kind of like sometimes sort of like overdone or ridiculous like trainings or boot camps or in like rituals and whatnot, no matter how like frankly like dumb it is, it actually still shows like a form of investment. Like they're trying, they're willing to like spend company time on like, like whatever the training rigmarole is. That's actually an excellent sign in the scheme of things, even though some of those things are, a little ham-handed. So right now our country, in my opinion, is not investing in people in a genuine way, and people are kind of picking up on it. And then it's like, do you feel like you are worth something? You can put on a brave face, but then like when you press on it, like a lot of people, are struggling with it.
I couldn't agree more. And we're not listening to each other's suffering. We're kind of putting our own suffering in a lot of ways and in a lot of ways we're not realizing that a lot of other people are really going through a lot of this same kind of suffering, even if it takes a different form.
Yes.
The basic need is unfulfilled. And I think, it'd be wonderful if we could rally around the common humanity of the basic needs that are being unfulfilled versus making everything into a coalitional thing where, our suffering is so different you would never understand. I just want to move towards a world where we try to understand at least.
Well, these are universal needs you've identified that it'd be very hard for anyone to argue against. It's like, look, like, shouldn't each of us have, like a feeling of connectedness and safety and esteem? And so the values you're identifying right now are something of a recasting of Maslow's hierarchy of needs in your latest book, which I believe is called Transcend. Is that right? This book came out fairly recently, I want to say just last year.
Oh, well, yeah. Look what I know.
Well,
here.
For those of you who have the video, there's a copy of like the book.
What's this doing here?
Go ahead and read us the subtitle, Scott.
Yeah, it's The New Science of Self-Actualization.
The New Science of Self-Actualization. So let's continue past the need for esteem.
Excellent. So first of all, Maslow never drew a pyramid. So that's a big misconception I talk about in the book, that everyone knows the pyramid with like Wi-Fi at the bottom or toilet paper at the bottom. Yeah. It's a meme. It turns out Maslow never drew a pyramid. So I have a sailboat metaphor. So I argue that we have a boat that needs to not have too many holes in it, or else you don't go anywhere. But if you just have all your holes, if you just have the boat secure, you're still not going to go anywhere unless you open up the sails and risk going, knowing that the winds could come crashing down anytime, knowing that I don't know if that was the right metaphor. Winds. I don't know if winds crash down, but anyway, you see what I'm saying. Waves crashing down. Winds. You still need to go in a purposeful direction. In your mind,
which is the bottom of the boat? Is that safety? Is that connectedness and safety?
So the boat is security, and the sail is growth. And the three needs that comprise security are these for safety, connection, and self-esteem. So the ones we just discussed was the boat. Like we already just
all of the three of them are like the hull of the boat. Yes, I got it.
That's the boat.
Okay.
And if you can have those three needs secure, you feel like you can start to explore the world in a way that you feel vulnerable to.
Yes, I love it. And this is one of the arguments I was making, which was like, look, like you can't get people concerned about climate change if they can't put food on their table that day. You know what I mean? And so so you have to address like the connectedness, safety, and esteem. So what does the mast look like? Like how can you get this boat moving? So if you open
the sail, if you open the sail, so whereas the base of security is safety, the base of the sail is exploration. The need for exploration is a really deeply evolved need we share with other animals, but it takes unique manifestations in humans because we can bring in the intellect. We can bring in intellectual curiosity. That was another finding that I found in my dissertation research, was was that intellectual curiosity was not the same thing as IQ. I found it was only about a 0.50 correlation.
Oh, there's some very bright people that are totally incurious.
Not curious at all. Yes, not one iota, not one iota. Being able to do what we call in our research, we call it cognitive exploration. So you can have behavioral exploration, like Columbus set sail, and that's the physical adventure seeking. But you can also have cognitive exploration, like the human imagination. Like
Heck,
human,
man, a lot of it's just like, are you reading books and stuff? You know what I mean? But you talk about like the need to explore. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the base. And if you can go, so when you open the sail, you are moving with the spirit of exploration. You're not driven by fear anymore. See, this is the distinction that Maslow made between deficiency motivation versus growth motivation.
Wow.
When you have a deficiency motivation, everything in your life, what you're trying to do is to make the world comport to your own.
Do we have a lot of deficiency motivation nowadays?
Yes. Exactly. We're living in a deficiency motivated nation. That's correct.
Yeah,
that's
and
correct.
what the language I used on the campaign was mindset of scarcity, but it's the same thing.
Same thing. Exactly. Because when you're hungry, right, you're saying feed me. When you're profoundly lonely, you say, like me. When you don't feel like you've respect, then you start saying respect me. I deserve respect. But all of that takes the flavor of the deficiency realm of human existence. When you can get to get to the being realm of human existence, or the growth realm, and open up that sail, you are no longer driven by what you are deficient in. You're very forward looking, and you're driven by a spirit of exploration of the unknown, and you're okay with the unknown. But most importantly, you have what Maslow called be love for the being of others. You could think of it maybe like universal love, but I've tried to make the case in my book that the need for connection is different than be love. You can be very, very connected to people that share similar political beliefs or religious beliefs, or in your in-group, and have a lot of hate for anyone that you perceive to be in your out-group. But when you have being love, you really have a deep, abiding love for the being of everyone that you meet. There's kind of a sacredness to the unique existence.
So is that the sail? Is that the fifth thing after the need to explore?
Yes. Yep, that's exactly right. So exploration, and then be love, and then the third one is the need for purpose. So I argue it's a whole system. Okay, so if you're driven by a spirit of exploration, you have a humanitarian kind of loving sort of orientation
openness,
on the
or
world.
just like, look, I love people that may disagree with me, or like I don't have certain things in common with.
Exactly. And you have a sense of purpose. So from this sailing metaphor, you have a very clear vision of where you're going, even though you might be very far away from your going. And even though there's going to be a lot of setbacks, there's going to be like the sea is unknown, like that's life, folks. I'm sorry to tell you Santa Claus doesn't exist, in the sense, say life, there's going to be a lot of unknowns, but you still have to go. You still have to move.
So one side of the ledger is deficiency motivation. The other one is growth motivation. Is that right?
Growth, or Maslow called it the being realm of human existence. Sometimes he uses those two things. The B realm.
So I think most people listening to this can easily understand and relate to the need for connectedness, safety, and esteem. If those things aren't present, then it's very, very difficult to feel like, you can make positive things happen, or even that, you deserve things. Like do deserve $1,000 a month. I mean, and then the higher order needs are around the ability to explore, to love people that aren't like you necessarily, and then have a purpose. If you ask many people, I think, like, what is your purpose? They'll look at you like it's a very, very odd question, frankly. And I think there are a lot of people that think like even trying to ascertain your purpose is like a very privileged pursuit, because at that point it must be that your other needs are being met. And this is all tied together, where there are so many Americans who are struggling right now in ways big and small that, it's like trying to have someone trying to address some of these higher questions. A lot of them aren't in position to be able to consider them, very rightfully so. And it's one reason why, as a society, we have to do a much better job of trying to address people's sense of safety and connectedness and esteem.